Hello, Alabama fans. We are doing our BOL Alabama postgame show. We hope you guys will jump in and join us. I'm Tim Watts, publisher of BamaOnline.com. This is Jimmy Stein, who's joining us fresh from the game. He just walked in, got it a little bit early, got able to leave a little bit early with that score. So we're bringing it live with our thoughts. First time doing a live show together, and Andrew Bone's going to join us at some point in the future as soon as he pops in. But Jimmy, first game, Kalen DeBoer kind of lived, kind of tempered down a little bit the enthusiasm, I think, from the crowd with all the rain today, right?
Yeah, the rain definitely for those that were here was a real story because it wasn't really a strong I mean, there was a chance of precipitation the whole time, all week. But even this morning, it didn't look like it was going to be a washout kind of a thing. So really, I mean, at the stadium, one of the striking things, what a lot of people were talking about was that not everybody at the stadium even brought rain gear with them. And a lot of people got just really wet outside the stadium because they didn't have rain gear because of the forecast. But regardless of that, it did not rain during the game at all. The rain ended a good 30 minutes before the game or so. And so, the game itself was dry, not really affected too much other than humidity. It was very humid. I'm surprised more players didn't have some cramping issues. I did see a couple of occasions. And but overall, great night, 63 points.
I'm
That's
not
a
sure
lot.
there's a lot. I'm not sure there's a lot to really complain about, although I think we'll find something, right? We'll probably find something. I mean, it was the first game. You go into this game expecting it to be vanilla, right? Hey, it's going to be vanilla. They're not going to show a lot. They've got other opponents coming up, South Florida, working to Wisconsin, and then, of course, to the SEC. And I felt it was fairly vanilla on both sides of the ball, but I did see at certain times there was a flash. You would see a blitz or a stunt or a deep pass, and obviously a chance for guys to shine. But 63-0, led from the start. Anytime Dylan Lonergan's kneeing the ball, your third team quarterback at the end of a game, it's been a good one. But just give me your initial thoughts. Let's start in the first quarter. Let's kind of go from there and just pick up where the game started and go from there.
The number one thing that stood out to me, even in the first quarter with the game, with the 0-0 or 7-0 in the first quarter, was the number of players that were playing. It was an enormous shot. I expected, we talked about it all summer on BOL, that we expected more players to play under DeBoer than played under Saban, but it was a stunning number of players that played early. I don't know the final count. I'm going to have it for you guys, maybe even tomorrow on the board. But in the first half alone, I believe 27 or 28 defensive players played.
Yeah, it was everybody. I mean, guys that were, transfers in, guys that we're used to seeing, guys we didn't expect to see. I felt like we saw the whole secondary, right? You saw Red Morgan, Zay Mincy, Bach, you saw Mbakwe out there. I mean, just a little bit of everybody getting into the game. And I think in a game like this, that's probably the most beneficial aspect to this game, is because we've seen games where you didn't even, I go back to the year Mac Jones and them were undefeated. You barely even saw Bryce Young. This year you're getting a good look at Ty Simpson and just a good look at everybody. But jumping down that first quarter, give me some thoughts, how it started, how you felt it went, and let's just talk about it from there.
Well, it was a really odd first quarter. Western Kentucky had the ball a ton. Yet they weren't doing much with it, but they had the ball a ton. Alabama either went 3 and out, which they did once, or scored extremely quickly on big plays. Alabama had, I think, only 8 minutes of possession in the entire first half, yet scored 42 points. They actually scored 2 points for every offensive snap. They scored 42 points on just 21 snaps. That sounds incredibly efficient and perfect. Actually, it wasn't. It was sort of disjointed at times. I felt like there were some substitution issues. Maybe that came from playing so many guys. They had too many players on the field a couple times, and because they were trying to substitute late. There was the helmet comm problem, which was unique because this was our first game with the helmet comm situation, and then Western Kentucky's helmets apparently, their comm wasn't working. And when that happens, Alabama's not allowed to use theirs. So they had to switch out all the helmets, early.
They kept trying to fix it too. Yeah, they tried to.
Yeah.
So they tried to fix it initially. Then they got in a couple plays. Then they went back and tried to. I think they fixed it the next time. But again, the rain leading up to it, the slow start with that, and the coaches were arguing. They were confused about everything that happened.
Right.
I agree with you. Offensively, didn't look smooth as you'd expect them. Did I hear? I don't know if I made this up. Did I hear there was 20 plays for Alabama on offense in the first half? Could that be right?
21.
21 plays.
Only 21 plays in the whole half.
Yeah, I heard that at some point in the broadcast, and I was like, that can't even be remotely possible with the score.
And they scored 42 points, 2 points per snap. I don't know that I've ever heard of that, but it came from a couple of different things, primarily because Alabama was scoring on big plays and scoring quickly. Alabama was only having possessions that lasted 2, 3, and 4 plays. They either went 3 and out and punted or scored just 2 or 3 plays into a drive. And obviously you have to talk, in the first half, the big play to Ryan Williams. On the one hand, it was so awesome and really, kind of predictable. And by predictable, I mean, I literally predicted it, on the board and in a couple of different stories, actually, that Ryan would make big plays, or at least
you're not getting a lot of street. You're not getting a lot of street cred for telling us Ryan Williams might have big plays. We're gonna let's stop the hot takes right here. You know what's funny to me though? Sorry to interrupt. What was funny to me was the second touchdown. It was almost like, oh, I knew it. There was no excitement. It was like, yeah, we knew this was coming.
Yeah,
the expectations. How are the expectations so high for a 17-year-old? And he hits them, and everybody's like, yeah, we knew that was going to happen. That's the amazing part of that to me.
Yeah, I hope Alabama's stats people can answer this. I might email a question to them because this will be interesting to know. I wonder if Ryan Williams tonight became the youngest player to ever score a touchdown in Alabama football history. I think that's very possible. I don't know for sure that that's the case because, I'm sure there's been some other early graduate type guys.
I would think the youngest to score two.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
How old was Jalen Hurts, though?
Oh, that's a great point. Jalen was 17.
He was a youngster. Jalen was a youngster himself now. They were both I
think he might have turned 18 in September of something like that. But no, that was a great catch. So I'd be interested to know that. But again, the Ryan thing, like I said, it was awesome and sort of like, well, you knew this was going to happen.
And then Justice. How about Justice Haynes? You're sitting here. We got an 84. That dude hadn't ran that far in 2 years. He was like, last 5 yards. I
thought he was running out of gas.
Yeah, he was like, whoa, I'm going to go. So, to me, the highlight, though, in the first quarter was the defense. I mean, you know how much I love Quay Russaw from his sophomore year on. He wasn't as big a name as James Smith early on. James has had a great game himself, but Quay was the one that I just liked because talking to people, it was his mental aspect off the field, just the way he handled himself. And to see him come out in that first, and make a couple of big plays, and the whole defense was just swarming around. But Quay stood out to me pretty quick. And then you saw James. And I'm going to tell you one thing. If you'll watch James, when James starts to feel James, it's a problem. And he was getting more and more confidence as he went along. Looked great out there wearing 23. Looked the part, but to see the Montgomery duo that we've talked about for so long, you and I, as close as we follow recruiting, but to see them actually do it on the field was pretty awesome.
Quay getting the start over Q Robinson, I thought was the biggest surprise of the lineup, obviously other than Caden Proctor, but that was injury related.
Yeah.
But Quay Russaw getting the start was a surprise because most everyone expected the older guys. But Quay Russaw gets the start. But what's interesting is the first 3rd and long, here comes Q Robinson in as a designated pass rusher, Wolf, on 3rd and long, and he gets the sack. And Q was the best pass rusher tonight in terms of the consistency of his wins of either getting a sack or getting to the quarterback was good. Alabama got fantastic production out of the Wolf spot, whether it was Quay Russaw, who was extremely active, especially against the run, I thought. But Q Robinson rushed the passer really well from that spot. And like you said, James Smith, I thought all the defensive tackles played pretty well, particularly James, I thought was very active. I thought Tim Smith was active. Jaheim Otis was active. Payne was out there. He played. Of course, Tim Keenan got the start, in the interior. They played a lot of guys. And as the game wore on, they played literally all of them. I'll be interested to know also, by the time the game was over, they probably played every scholarship player on the roster, I believe, got in the game. I'm not sure about a couple of offensive linemen.
I tell you who stood out to me too quietly was Overton. He had a couple passes batted down. I don't think they turned him loose. I think they're kind of like just staying around. I don't think they just turned him loose because he was not being budged. You didn't see him really rush. You saw him knock down a couple passes, but what I saw was him get sideline to sideline a few times, chasing the ball down. A lot of big hits. That was the thing. A lot of big hits that you saw. And I will say, I don't think the defensive line showed anything. I think they were just in pretty much a base. Didn't see a lot of blitz. And the few times they did, like with Quay Robinson, I think Q Robinson, he could have came whenever he wanted. I mean, he was coming around that edge. So they kind of pulled back. I think they knew what they had. And also kind of similar to what Saban used to do. I think they didn't really want to just dominate the pressure because they wanted their DBs to work, and you saw them have to work and go through some stuff back to the ball. Red Morgan, getting jammed up, and all those guys going in there. And one thing I really want to point out is how well Mbakwe did on the edge because they were attacking him and he was not getting blocked. He was pushing them back. And real quick, let's add Andrew Bone, who was having some technical difficulties. But Andrew, welcome to the show.
Boom.
Andrew is here. We're in the first quarter, talking a little bit about everything that happened with Alabama, all the young guys that have played, James Smith, Quay Russaw. Let's switch to the offense now that Andrew's here. We got rid of the fun part. We can talk a little bit about, your thoughts. Like, they were kind of bogged down. It was a very weird first half, Andrew. Give us some thoughts on the offense and what you saw.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you flip the field with those Keon Sabb interceptions, you kind of have a short field to work with. But I thought Jalen Milroe looked sharp out there. I mean, he didn't have a lot of opportunities, obviously, but I mean, what was he, 6 of 9? I may have the actual stats. I don't have the exact stats in front of me, but man, he looked sharp out there. The speed, rushing around the end. I mean, he looked fantastic. I thought Ryan Williams obviously had 2 big catches in the game. One that explosive 84. How about that being your first touchdown reception of your career? An 84-yard touchdown.
Nice.
And then your next catch is another touchdown. So, unbelievable for Ryan Williams to come out there. And Jimmy, you called it earlier in the week. I mean, you said Ryan Williams was going to have a home run play in this game, whether it was on special teams, whether it was, a big catch, but, right off the bat, 84 yards. So
I think you also say Keon Sabb would have 2 interceptions?
We're talking about the offense. But yeah, I mean, I think we were all pleased with the way that the offense performed. It was sluggish a little bit sometimes, but first game of the season.
That's right.
Before we continue, good little crowd tonight. We appreciate every one of you joining in. Please, if you get a chance, give us a like, a thumbs up, and subscribe. Site's been growing. Love the YouTube page. Have a good time with everybody. Of course, you can find us at Bama Online in the round table. That thing will be blowing up right now. Everybody's discussing it as well. But if you give us a chance, give us a like and subscribe. We love the YouTube page. It's been doing a really good job, and we're just now breaking our first live show happened tonight. So we're all sober, so y'all are getting the rare view. I don't know about Jimmy, but and Andrew's sketchy. And Andrew's sketchy at times, but thank y'all for joining in. And yeah, I'll go back to Ryan's touchdown. It's the fact it was so easy. He just glided on out there in the Ryan way that he does and caught it and kind of cruised on in and walked it into the end zone. The one thing I will say, me and Jimmy talked about earlier, is I did feel like some of the knucklehead penalties came back into play. You saw that a little bit on the offense and the defense and Western Kentucky. Look, and Helton's a smart coach. And Finley I'm not saying he's a great quarterback, but he's an experienced quarterback. He's faced this he's been, his 4th or 5th year he's played. He's played at the highest level. So for Alabama to pitch a shutout in this game, lead start to finish, again, I mean, a 6 or 3-point win on a 34.5 point spread. Jimmy?
Yeah, what just struck me about, and congratulations to Kane Womack and his defensive staff on pitching a shutout in their first game. And it just sort of struck me that if Kane and his guys last year at South Alabama did a fantastic job, they probably wouldn't beat Western Kentucky, to be honest. They wouldn't even beat them, much less. But now that Kane gets to coach these super elite athletes, I'm sure they're just fun toys for Kane, kind of like a Batman playing with all those little bat toys out there. And he pitches a shutout against a team that the South Alabama team probably wouldn't have been able to even beat a year ago. But it's hey, when you shut out anyone, like Tim said, TJ Finley is an experienced quarterback that's played at 2 SEC schools. They have a good receiver core. I broke down a little bit of Western Kentucky's personnel this week. Their first 3 wide receivers are impressive guys. The running backs on the Doak Walker, watch list. They have an offensive lineman that's likely to be drafted. So I'm not saying they're a great team. They're not compared to an SEC team. As a matter of fact, I think Alabama's going to play 10 teams better than Western Kentucky on the schedule. But they do have individual players that present some challenges at times. So overall, great job by the defense pitching a shutout, but the offense scoring 63 points. I think Saban only topped 63 points one other time, maybe. So DeBoer almost topped the all-time Saban mark in terms of scoring.
This was the third highest scoring opener in Alabama history, right? Give a shout out to our guy. Happy birthday, early birthday to Jay. He's got jokes. Jaber Day, 67 years old and still running. That's a good run. 61 years of being a Bama fan. He said everything. So happy birthday, and thanks for jumping in here with us. But yeah, I think they said it was the third highest scoring opener in Alabama history. Easily could have put up a couple of more touchdowns. For us and Andrew Bone, Jimmy Stein, Tim Watts, we've all followed recruiting so long. We love it. And to see this, it's almost like watching the Army All-American game. We got to see Daniel Hill, Kevin Riley, Richard Young. We got to see guys we haven't seen in a long time. So it was fun to see them all get out there. Caleb Odom got some run at the end. And Ty Simpson, you cannot sleep. We reported this on the roundtable early on during the summer. Alabama staff is comfortable with Ty Simpson as a quarterback they can win with. And that's invaluable when to have a backup that you feel comfortable that can run your offense. But you can't replicate live action. And that's what he got tonight. He took some big hits. He made some throws. He had some good passes. He had some bad passes. He had some nice runs. And I think that's one thing people didn't really realize enough about Ty was the athlete he is. He was a great athlete in high school, not the highest level of competition. So a lot of that rode off to the competition, but Ty is a really good athlete. Andrew?
Yeah. I think Kobe Prentice liked having Ty in there a little bit this season.
Yeah, he did.
Because those first 2 passes went to Kobe, and you saw how explosive Kobe was. I wouldn't fault Jalen that. There just weren't a lot of opportunities tonight. Kobe's going to get the ball plenty throughout the season, but Ty came in there and was running point pretty well. It didn't really look like Alabama had missed a beat once he went in there, and that's got to give you a lot of encouragement heading into the next game and throughout the season, knowing that you do have a guy that is right there right behind Jalen, that can go in there, and a guy that you can trust to lead the offense and to make big plays and can beat you not only with his arm but also with his legs.
Yeah, I thought Ty's first pass was really, that first pass he threw was really sharp.
We got Jared now I'm going to point out, because I got a little hater in me, that Andrew's two hot takes was the other was Clemson would be within a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. That's all I'm saying.
This is the thing about Tim. Tim hates anyone that gets any sort of credit unless it's him. So when someone says credit, he's like, no.
Andrew Bone, literally, no. We're gonna you gave us 2 hot takes, and we're gonna talk about both of them. Jared's got $2. He wants the lottery numbers for $2.
I would put number 2. Whatever lottery numbers you pick, make sure 2's in there. That's Ryan's.
I would have 63, 0, 2, 22.
22 is nice.
23 and 4.
Well, you like those Montgomery Carver dudes tonight, didn't you?
Hey, aren't y'all glad you got to see them though?
Yeah. And
we've waited.
There were a lot of people that were. You have James Smith in there early, batting down, Quay starting. I don't think going into the game were any of you guys expecting Quay to be the first guy out there on the field.
No.
I was expecting him to get on the field tonight early. Right. I wasn't expecting him to be the first guy out there on the field.
I expected him to play
fair.
I expected him to play with the ones. I didn't expected him to be a one.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. Not the first
him
snap.
creating some pressure right away. I mean, that's got to give them a lot of positivity going into the next game. I mean, with that group with Quay Rousseau and Q Robinson, I mean, those guys are just lightning quick off the edge. They're physical, especially Robinson. I mean, you look back a couple years ago and his progression until now. I mean, this is a guy that can make a significant impact on this team this season.
You know who we haven't talked about that really to me, and he looked a little awkward early in his career, was Jihad Campbell. He looks like very comfortable. He had that touchdown. Remember that fumble return where he kind of like his legs were spinning? He looked so powerful, so strong, so fast. Justin Jefferson's not far behind him in that speed closing in. That's something they all did. The safeties came flying in. Saab came flying in. Could have easily had 3 interceptions tonight. That's how well he played. And when Caleb Downs left, that was important. That's why Saab was so important, because you lose Caleb Downs, you want to bring in guys. And then we were told, and you don't want to get into the sour grapes thing, we were told that Keon is a better in coverage guy while Caleb was a better downhill guy. And I think we saw that tonight with Keon, who's going to play in the NFL at some point.
Yeah, he's a center fielder to me, like a ball hawking center fielder. He's not built like Ha, but he sort of reminds me of Ha, because Ha was so good in coverage. He was like a safety with some corner type skills. And that's what I see in Keon. He's just so rangy. He's got great hips. He explodes. You saw what he does with the ball after. We did the same thing at Michigan, by the way. One of his interceptions at Michigan, he housed. And you could easily see that tonight. He's good with the ball in his hands. He's a really good player. He is much different than Caleb. I like how Tim described that. He is different than Caleb. He's more of a deep center fielder type safety, not Caleb, who's probably just as good in the box. Caleb's a lot like he's to be honest, a better Landon Collins. In terms of Caleb's just at his best in the box, and Landon was at his best in the box, even in the NFL. And I think Caleb will make a lot of money doing that.
Yeah,
I agree.
He's a Eddie Jackson type player, and someone made a comment about that, but that was kind of where I was going with it. He reminded me a lot of Eddie Jackson. Just his ball skills out there, his movement, his speed. I'm sure his family loved it too, because they were in attendance. His younger brothers were in town, 2 recruits out of the New Jersey area. So, Keon he's an exciting player. And one thing about Keon, we talked about all this competition going into the fall camp in the secondary. You never really heard about competition at Keon's position. You just always heard Keon was kind of the guy already, and everybody kind of knew it. So, props to him for coming in from Michigan right away. And he was one of those late guys that came in, made a big impact early on, and now leading the team in interceptions.
Yeah, I feel like they could have did a little bit more, but when that game got away in the first half so easily, I think I expect to see a little bit more of the tight ends. You don't have to really show anything. I think from a win-win standpoint, this is as win-win as it gets, because you get experience, you get some stuff to gripe about with the mistakes they made, obviously some stuff to work on. You get a lot of experience that you're not going to be able to get against Georgia. You're not going to be able to get it against LSU. But if they do need it, they've got that experience from earlier in the year, and there's a chance for that next week as well. Who I saw tonight was Bertrand, the Texas A&M transfer portal guy. I don't know if we've mentioned him since he hit the portal. Remember, he came, he was quiet, he had no film and everything, but I saw him out there. And the one thing about that offensive lineman, they looked the part just like the defensive linemen do. They look big and athletic.
Olis was in there, saw him get some reps. It was good to see him. And you talked about this earlier, Tim, about seeing some of these guys that played in the All-American game just this past year. But there are a lot of guys who didn't play last season who were freshmen, now getting a chance to step on the field, get some good reps in. So it was good to see some of those guys up there.
Yeah, the one thing, there's going to be dude, is he comfortable catching those punts or what? You're talking about casual. He is a casual. He is very comfortable with those things. Look very natural.
I'd heard last year, I mentioned this on the board a couple of times in different posts, but I heard last year when they made the decision to move on from Kool-Aid McKinstry as the punt returner, that Cole Adams was by that time healthy. And even though he hadn't played, they were seriously considering maybe Cole should return punts. Instead, they went with Caleb Downs, and that worked out pretty well. But Cole is in consideration to replace Kool-Aid instead of Downs. That just goes to show how much not only this staff, but even the last staff had a lot of confidence. They like Cole a lot too.
And we saw Kool-Aid at the game tonight. Nick Saban, Kool-Aid, Terrion Arnold, J.C. Latham. We saw a lot of guys showing up for a Western Kentucky game. We'll talk about this later in the week. A good crowd of recruits showed up for considering, again, 6 o'clock Western Kentucky game. So all in all, I think you're looking at a successful weekend. And what you kind of expected with Kalen DeBoer, that first game. And you still got that weird South Florida game coming up, which almost would feel like a second opener to some degree, you know. But still a decent team that's going to challenge you, not quite, you know, obviously Alabama's going to be the better team. And, you know, I do see the comments. We should talk about this. I want to talk about this. I've had a bunch of texts saying it's just Western Kentucky. Well, I watched a lot of football today because I don't just watch Alabama, which is what a lot of people do, watch their team. I watched a lot of football, and there wasn't a lot of 63-0 games today. I mean, I think Oregon's up. Did we just see they're up 10 points at home against Idaho in the fourth quarter? Oregon's up 24-14 against Idaho, and I'm sure Idaho, outside of potatoes, they do football really well. They don't, but I'm saying it's easy to let that first game slip up on you. And it be a 42-29 game. But this one, I think, is you're just reaching for stuff to gripe about.
Yeah, my comeback to that would just simply be, yes, it is just Western Kentucky. But if Alabama is a great team, and we don't know that yet. We don't know because all they've done is beaten Western Kentucky. But if Alabama is a great team, you know what they would do? They'd beat Western Kentucky about 63-0. I mean, there's nothing to take away from the performance tonight that should give anyone any evidence that Alabama isn't a good team. They look good. Now, they haven't played a great team yet, but that's coming.
Yeah, we got a question here, Steve Pierce. What is our most y'all's? That sounds like a Tim Watts word. I love it. I'm stealing it. What is our most pleasant surprise from tonight's game? It could be anything.
I think it's the shutout for me. Defense pitching a shutout. First game of the season. You know, a lot of new faces. Obviously, it's Coach DeBoer's first game, but there was a lot of questions going into the season with the defense. And you know, regardless of what you want to think of Western Kentucky, you know, there's always a team, a Georgia Southern, a Georgia State, somebody who's going to score a touchdown. It could be a garbage touchdown. It could be 7 points. Those guys played until the end of the game. You know, pitching a shutout, first game of the season, I thought was really impressive, especially with all the new faces in the secondary. You know, the new edge rushers, all that good stuff. The new defense, so many new things. But pitching that shutout, you got to think Nick Saban being in attendance, flying back from College Station, being a defensive coach, he probably loved seeing that.
Yeah, I'll just pick out one player and go with Quay Russaw getting the start, and not only getting the start, but playing extremely well. I'm not surprised that he played well, just a little surprised that he got the start. That said, you know, Q Robinson came in very quickly at the same position. They got a lot of production out of that position, out of that Wolf spot. But Quay getting the start was a pleasant surprise. He played really well. And secondly, I would just say kind of what Bone said. They pitched a shutout, scored 63 points, and played the entire roster. Most of the time when you put in your twos, Alabama was putting in their threes. They ended the game with some walk-ons on the field. You're going to give up a big play. Something's going to go wrong. No, the entire team, I think they might have played just about every scholarship player tonight to still pitch a shutout and score 63. That's impressive.
Yeah, that'd be my takeaway is getting able to play so many people. And you're right. How many times did, you know, and it's kind of funny on the Bama Online Roundtable where they're discussing, it used to be bring in the backups. And then you bring in the backups, they give up a touchdown. They're like, why the hell are the backups in? That was always I'm convinced Nick Saban used to want them to score at the end to have something to gripe about. Because when Alabama was up, you know, 42-3, they always gave up a 10-0 run at the end of a game, it seemed like. So I was the 63-0 ended inside the 20, I think, taking a knee. Could have easily been 77, even 84 points. I mean, they weren't really trying. How many times did they even throw deep tonight? Just a couple times, right?
Yeah, Todd never did. It was just the Milroe deep shots to Ryan, just off the top of my head. Milroe only threw it 9 times. I think Milroe was 7 of 9. Ty was about 5 or 6 of 9. I thought there'd be more throws, but I thought there'd be more plays. Again, Alabama only ran 21 total plays in the entire first half.
I mean, you had 600 yards to 150, 145 yards. And before we go on, one more last reminder. If you get a chance, give us a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. We appreciate y'all being here. And again, you can find us at bamaonline.com on the roundtable, where the three of us, especially Joseph Hastings is another one, just hammering that message board right now. Our team guys, Blake Byler and Charlie Potter extraordinaire, are interviewing the coaches, or they would be here. And we'll have more shows later in the week, but we appreciate you being here. All right, guys, it's late for Jimmy. Andrew's usually in bed now, about 45 minutes. Give us one final thought. Give me a good thought on this and what you think. Kalen DeBoer's first game. Nick Saban's no longer the coach. What are your final thoughts before we get out of here?
It was an impressive debut. It was an impressive win. Yes, there were mistakes. Yes, there was sloppiness. Yes, there are some things they need to correct. But overall, for a first performance against a team that may end the season in a bowl, that was an impressive overall performance. You can tell all the work they put in over the spring and summer and fall. It's going to be an exciting team to watch. I'm telling you, number 2, Ryan, he might be a thing.
Yeah, I think so, Jimmy. Yeah, he's a special talent. I mean, I think with Coach DeBoer getting that kind of that monkey off your back, how's he going to do in his first game as Alabama's new football coach? I think he passed the test there. So I think that was a big thing as far as player wise. I think the secondary did really well. Was impressed with some of those young guys. Seeing Bray Hubbard out there on the field this evening, making some plays. I think he had around 6 tackles. He was very active. Seeing Jalen Mbakwe out there making some plays. Think about this. This guy was the starting quarterback for his high school football team last season. Took Clay Chalk up to the state championship. Barely played any defense. A lot of people were asking us on the BOL roundtable last year, would Alabama potentially move him to offense because he was so good with the ball in his hands? He just, he kind of stuck with it. He was going to play in the secondary. He was going to play corner. He goes to Alabama. Him and Ryan, huge leaders in Alabama's recruiting class last year, all year long, leaders in this freshman class, and then to go out there and get some meaningful stats, make some plays. I thought that was awesome. That's got to give you a lot of excitement, hope about not only the team this year, but the future of the program, especially with those young guys making an early impact.
Yeah, my final thought is this again, it's a win-win. I don't think you have a lot to gripe about. You can always find something to complain about in any game. I've never seen a perfect game. I was talking about that. Me and Charlie Potter were talking about, have we ever seen just a perfect game? And I thought of that Vanderbilt game that year with the runaway when the Vanderbilt lineman called him out, said, "You're next," or that ended bad. But that was about as close to a perfect game as I remember. Not saying this was perfect, but as far as openers go, what stood out to me was how many guys we hadn't seen a lot of, inexperienced guys that we saw win a game 63-0. Relatively easy, just an easy afternoon for them. Knock on wood, no injuries. Proctor was before the game, and for those asking, we don't know yet what the Proctor situation was. We saw him on the sideline. It was something to do with his shoulder. He wasn't grimacing. He seemed to be in good shape, or good spirits at least. But I mean, if he's got some kind of shoulder issue, I'm sure we'll get something from Charlie Potter.
And Kalen DeBoer did come out after and said that they were going to be evaluating him a little bit further. It's still early to know, but there's no real significant update there yet.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably a wait and see. But again, we appreciate you guys. Alabama with the victory, 63-0. We'll be seeing you guys next week, probably the same time. What's South Florida's next week? 6 p.m. kickoff again, right?
Correct.
All right. Well, we'll be seeing you guys and girls. We have a healthy membership of females that hold their own with the men in the fight. So appreciate everyone for being here, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.